Connie, talk to us about Cade Cunningham and what you think his season should look like.
Well, what we should see out of this season is improvement, right? Like we all know Cade Cunningham is a great player on this team, but last year we talked about it all year. The front office let him down, the coaching staff let him down, the lack of shooting around him let him down. And so, from what I'm thinking about Cade Cunningham, I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about an adjustment in shot profile, and I'm thinking about an increase in assists. An increase in assists, obviously, because you're just passing to better shooters. I think the guys he's gonna kick to when he drives and kicks are just gonna hit 3 pointers and hit shots at a higher rate than the guys last year. But something important that I think about is shot profile. Cade took like a lot of mid rangers last season, and that's okay because he's a very talented, very skilled mid range shooter. He was 50% from 10 to 14, 49% from 15 to 19. And, those are good numbers. But I think they are a byproduct of when he beats his man, when he gets an advantage, there's two guys waiting for him in the paint. And so he takes the mid ranger, which he's good at, over a shot from 5 to 9 or less than 5 feet, like getting a layup. And you compare that to a guy like I was just looking at guys who had like similar shot total attempts last year as Cade, and one of those guys was Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell took a crazy greater amount right at the rim, so less than 5 feet, and behind the 3 point line, and took less in that mid range space. Now he didn't come from the greatest spacing area ever either, but Davey Bickerstaff did do some stuff with staggering with that team. So what I want to see this year from Cade is basically the same stuff he's been doing, but in an offense that's more designed for him to succeed. So that's more assists, just to guys being better players around him, and more shots at the rim and more shots at three with a slight decline in mid range. Uh, just for the numbers, I'm not a traditional numbers guy. I don't love just like eliminate the mid range to make the shot profile look good for all ultimate efficiency. But there is more something like of a more spaced floor, just resulting in more layups and easier shots uh, for this guy to like really show some stuff next season, which I think he will.
I do want to touch on what Connie's like relation to the shot attempts that Donovan Mitchell had. And I talked about that briefly when we that what that 5 second clip of Cade shooting a 3 pointer. But we were talking about getting threes up, and I told Gabe like I think Bickerstaff's going to push him to shoot 8, 9, 10 threes per game. Just solo 10. That's something I'd love to see. I think he has that range. I think he has that ability to be a consistent 3 point threat. And I think that's really where it's at because I think he has that ability to get to the rim. We've seen that. He's unstoppable getting to the rim, especially as a point guard, stronger and bigger than other point guards. But that big like question mark has been the lack of spacing and where the front office and coaching has kind of let him down. We won't dive into that, but what we can dive into is the positives that we can line up a team, multiple teams with much more spacing around him still while having that vertical lob threat, having those shooters in the corner, bringing back Simone, obviously signing Timmy and Beasley as well, who we'll get into later. But I mean, we've touched on it so much. I think that flexibility of him having spacing now is really going to allow him to not eliminate the mid range from his game,
No,
but
no,
either
no.
get right to that rim, like Con is what you're saying, or get those threes up, which are higher percentage shots in terms of like, points obviously from three, but he's better at getting to the rim. He's great on his right or his left. He can get to
We we know he can hit that mid range. I think with like a little better spacing and like the second and third defender not right behind his primary guy waiting for him, Cade Cunningham is going to put some defenders in absolute hell this season.
I
I
absolutely, and
think
that's what I'm thinking. And
like
and I think one thing that I'm most like excited for from that is with spacing, that two-man game with Duran. Longtime substitute of the pod, Mike Brooks called me last night, and that's one of the things we talked about the most is that
oh yeah.
potential of the two-man game with spacing of Duran and Cade, because I think Cade is gonna have a monstrous year. I think he's gonna take serious leaps, and I think he's not even gonna be like a low key all star. I think he's going to be in the all star game, guys. But I think that two-man game is going to excel him, and it's going to excel Duran. And like you said, Connie, I think he's going to put defenders in hell, and Duran's only going to help him do that as well. I just think from a statistical point of view, when you're looking at total points and total assists,
Mhm.
I think those numbers are going to skyrocket for Cade Cunningham.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I did have one thing I wanted to say as well, which it will be great for him in his all-star push and for representation of Detroit, I think, but also one thing I think we have huge potential for is the last thing I want to say. With that Cade Duran pick and roll, if there is that spacing and we see how calm and composed Cade is in the pick and roll, that Gortat screen, you guys know what I'm talking
I
about. I think
love the
Duran has an absolute
Detroit
huge
fans may know it better as the highway screen. Him and Isaiah Stewart used to do it a lot in Cade's rookie year.
So like with the spacing and with Duran, it was just like I don't know if you guys have seen him. He looks like an absolute unit right now. I saw him doing some pull-ups. Holy cow. Um, but I think that has a lot of just potential. Just emphasizing that pick and roll and like how it's going to contribute to him statistically.
For sure. And before we kick it back to Connie to close out the Cade season preview, let's head over to Gabe. Gabe, what are you expecting from Cade this year?
The only thing I disagree on you guys with is the assist. He averaged 7.5 last year, which is a lot. It's just I think it's hard to get more than that
I think
when
it's
he
going
was
up.
like the guy touching the ball every single possession, doing everything. I would not be surprised if that stays even or climbs down, but with less turnovers. I think that's the important thing. I really want to see the turnover number go down this year, either from those stupid ones where he just like holds it a little too long, or he tries these like passes that aren't quite there. And that's, we said a lot of time, is that him not being able to read quick enough, or is it the terrible spacing? I think we all agree it's more the spacing. And then last thing, of course, the threes. I agree with that. I want to see him take a lot more threes, and I think he can take more. Is having like a little like floater game, little dinkers, dumpers, because there like probably won't be that guy so high up on him. He'll probably be more at the rim, like a Gobert or an Evan Mobley, and just having that little push shot if the big is kind of in the in between where the lob is not on. And Cade struggled with that these past seasons. I remember mentioning that a few times. And he has the touch. Either hand, I'd like to see a little, just like a little 8 foot little push shot. Him and Jalen Duren as well, actually. So I think that would really be helpful. And aside from that, you guys have any like numbers things you think Cade's gonna hit? Like he averaged 23 last season. How high realistically you think he's gonna average? I could see like I don't know, 26. Is that being unrealistic?
No,
I
I was gonna say 25, so
I
26.
was thinking like high 20s, like 26 to 28.
Okay.
On that, I have been having that thought. Like, what if he makes the jump to just being like just the insane numbers guy? But I'm gonna keep it a little dude. I'm gonna go similar point numbers, but I'm thinking double-digit assists or close to it this season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fully understand where you're coming from that with Gabe, but like at the same time, like he'd kick out to Killian Hayes. He'd kick out to
Yeah,
I
that's
Chemezi
don't know,
Met
like
too.
Isaiah Stewart was probably our best shooter, but that was like the best case scenario was a kick out to Beef Stew, who already like didn't gain much like defensive respect from the opposition. So I just think like I fully understand. I could see what you're saying, Gabe. That's why I think the assists are gonna stay about the same. Because I think there'll be less opportunities for assists, but the assist ratio is just gonna be higher just because better players are gonna make more shots. Other than the roster we had last season. So give me like a 27-8 kind of season. I think he's gonna take a huge leap, guys. I think he's gonna be an all-star.
Ah, shit, man.
Are, are we sticking that claim? Are we saying Cade All Star? Because
I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
I
I'm in
think I've
that
said
boat
it
as
every
well.
year he's
Cade
gonna
is an
leak
All
after
Star
his
this
first
I
year.
year.
think the stats are going to be variable. I think the stats are tough to predict because he's so good at so many different things, and he could be used in so different ways with this team. But end result, All-Star season, Cade Cunningham, year 4.
Cade Cunningham definitely has a lot to shoulder this season. He'll have people like Hardaway Jr. and the guy we'll talk about later, Beasley, to kick out to instead of Malachi Flynn and Chemezi Metu. But Connie, any other notes to wrap up this Cade season preview before we move on to Jaden Ivey?
Get ready.
Get ready.
Man. I know hopes are down for this Pistons team, but if I know one thing, it's that Cade Cunningham can play basketball. So